Hello, my name is Jouni Vilkka and I welcome you to my channel TFF Teacher from Finland. This video is about the metaethical theory called emotivism. If you are interested in philosophical ethics, I suggest you consider subscribing to my channel. As the name suggests, emotivism considers emotions to be important for ethics. Sentimentalists, as I explained previously, consider emotions to be motivating force for people and think that morals can be based on benevolent emotions. That can be thought of as a form of emotivism, but usually the latter term has been used to refer to the view that moral language is merely expressions of emotions, which can then imply that there is no basis, or at least no objective basis, for morals, and that moral facts do not exist. That kind of emotivism is then a form of non-cognitivism. The logical positivists of the Vienna Circle, for example, notoriously wanted to make sense of language by analyzing concepts through logic and empirical verification. If a concept was not verifiable, at least in principle, it was thought to make no sense at all. Alfred Ayer, for one, thought that moral concepts are just pseudo-concepts, because they don't actually refer to anything real, verifiable or analyzable. Using them does not affect the truth value of statements. Emotivists, like the logical positivists, consider moral language meaningless, and it may be so from the point of view of natural science. But that doesn't mean it is meaningless for normal human interaction. Charles L. Stevenson pointed out that moral disagreements can be about beliefs or attitudes. Beliefs are about facts, but the point of morals is rarely about claiming to make factual statements. It is more about trying to influence others in how they behave or are likely to behave. Stevenson analyzed moral statements as including 1. A descriptive meaning, which has to do with cognitions such as beliefs, memories, and so on. And more importantly, the statement also has 2. An emotive meaning, which expresses the speaker's attitude. It is meant to also inspire a similar attitude in the audience. So, if I say, dropping trash on the ground is wrong, I mean that I am against dropping trash on the ground, and so should you. The first half of that sentence is descriptive, and the second emotive. Stevenson noted that people use emotive language to persuade others. He defined a persuasive definition as one that gives a concept the kind of descriptive content that is likely to inspire the desired attitude in the audience. Pietarinen and Poutanen give the following example of this. X and Y are talking about a third person, Z. X calls Z uncivilized because Z is unable to express themselves elegantly. Y then apparently agrees, but at the same time praises Z's originality and imagination, stating that those qualities make Z a more civilized person than someone who merely has a formal education. The point is that Y gives the term civilized a new definition that is intended to elicit a certain kind of attitude in the audience. The problem with this kind of discussion is that it might not lead to an agreement. So, philosophers have to seek rational grounds for moral claims. Both X and Y can try to provide support for their definitions. This requires logical consistency and the best available factual arguments, with which science can help. But in order to convince others, the rhetoric employed must appeal to the attitudes of the audience. This may be how moral discourse can sometimes reach agreement, as the attitudes of the participants may indeed change with the right information and rhetoric. But the main problem that remains to be solved is that the emotive attitudes themselves are left without universally valid and unambiguous criteria. One problem with trying to analyze moral language as merely language expressing emotions and attitudes is that it is possible for people to simultaneously believe that something like lying, for instance, is morally wrong while enjoying it themselves. The traditional emotivist interpretation leads to a contradiction, as the person would be understood as saying, "I don't like lying, and neither should you," and "I like lying" at the same time. So either they don't really mean one or the other, or morals are about more than just emotions and attitudes. Another problem with an emotivist attempt to solve disagreements by analyzing the descriptive and emotive contents of moral claims is that it requires the separation of facts and values. But concepts like human, promise, respect, and many others describe social reality that already contains values and norms. The emotivist analysis of moral statements is also difficult to defend against subjectivism or relativism. If my moral statements merely express my subjective opinions and attitudes, why should anyone else care? People can certainly have contradicting attitudes. Why does this cause conflict? Eyre explained that besides describing attitudes, moral statements also function as directives, instructing people to behave in certain ways. This means that there can be moral conflicts, as the directives can certainly be contradictory. But there doesn't seem to be any way of really solving them fundamentally. At best, emotivists can analyze moral claims to see which has the best chance of convincing others, but if the emotions and attitudes being expressed are themselves subjective or otherwise relativistic, is that enough? Also, moral stance can be chosen, but can emotions? If not, that is a problem for the emotivist analysis. I have been rambling on for long enough now. I was supposed to discuss prescriptivism already in this video, but I don't want to make it too long, so I will talk about prescriptivism in the next one. See you then. If you wish to support my channel, please click thumbs up, subscribe, and share my videos. Any comments on the videos would also be welcome.